Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Aska, where you, the audience, get to ask questions of people that you don't get to interact. What happened?
I was just saluting. I realized when you do these, I'm just like,
yeah. Well, we're not editing this.
I know
we don't edit.
I wasn't gonna say anything. You're the one that looked
because I heard Josh laugh.
Yeah, because he saw me salute.
Our
I'm gonna be
head of
saluting in the
production.
episodes.
Yeah. Welcome to Aska, where you, the audience, get to ask questions of people that you may not be able to interact with on a daily basis. It's a safe space where you can ask whatever you want, and it's a great show for you to grow and learn as we also grow and learn. Mm-hmm. I'm one of your hosts, Big Irish J. Hollingsworth.
And I'm Little KevOnStage, and we have our special guest. What's your Twitter handle or Facebook? I was just going to say Jess.
Jessa Reed.
Jessa Reed.
All right, we have Jessa Reed, our very special guest, and Jess is a former meth head. So first question out.
What if you were like current?
I'd be
like, hold on one sec.
Was I supposed to quit before this?
Is meth head a derogatory term?
Actually, I hated, my podcast partner came up with the idea Mormon and the meth head.
Oh, that's the name of your podcast.
Yeah.
For those of you out there who want to know.
But I hate, like, meth head was something that when people say it, I'm like, okay, well, you're someone who's never come in contact with a meth addict.
Right,
it's not something that meth addicts use.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tweaker is the correct term.
Is the politically correct
term.
I felt like you put your glasses on.
Yeah.
Tweaker is the colloquialism that we like.
But it didn't flow the same in the
Right.
name. So now I have to go by meth head. Which
and like it not being a tweaker, do I have to say tweaka? I can't use the hard R.
Yes.
Tweaker.
Yes.
Hard R for tweaker.
And Jess is a good buddy of mine. She's also obviously she's a stand-up comic that you've been doing stand-up now. How long?
10 years?
10 years. I was trying to
on and off, mostly off.
Yeah. Much like the meth, on and off.
Yeah.
Now, I was trying to remember where we met. I don't know the first time where we met.
Big Sky 2014.
Was that it?
I think
that was
so.
I'd always
Wow,
knew
you don't
about
even remember, and she knows
we were
exactly.
like Facebook friends for years. I think I've been following you on Facebook
Really?
for years. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
You never know. I just want to point out that Jay didn't remember where you met, and you know the year and the place.
Yeah.
It was in Montana
It's,
in 2014.
I guess I
At
got to
the
start
Big
doing
Sky.
meth.
Now I
Helps
know
with
where
my
we
memory.
stand.
So we got all these questions. We ran, and I knew it was funny because so when we do these, a lot of times we present the questions to the guests ahead of time. Like, is there anything you don't want to talk about or you're afraid to talk about? What was funny to me is I know Jessa, and I was like, I don't think there's anything that is going to be presented. If you like, Jess has been on Comedy Central and she's talked about everything, and has no qualms about talking about everything. And so she actually replied to the questions and goes, "Oh, this is going to be fun." Yeah.
I think people would usually prefer that I talk about less.
Yeah. Oh, all right. So the first question was, how did you get started / hooked on meth?
I started my career in meth at a gig in Butte, Montana. I thought that I was going to do a line of Coke. I had asked the bartender for a line of white after a show. And
is that how people get cocaine?
Well, this is the late 90s, but no, this is how you accidentally do meth. So don't do this. Yeah. And I didn't even like Coke. I was 22, so I'd already finished my Coke phase.
Right.
Like Kev knows nothing about drugs, and I'm like,
promise you, I didn't know one person who even touched cocaine
before you moved here.
Before I moved to LA,
dude. So this
where?
From Washington. Now, mind you, grew up super religious, so didn't know nobody. Well, weed was people in high school smoked weed, but weed was as rough as you possibly got.
Oh my god,
cocaine there was no until
dude.
2 years ago. Apparently, everybody at my old job.
I'm like a square with drugs. Like I think we've talked about the hardest thing I've ever done is I've smoked weed. That's like the hardest thing I've ever done, right? But yeah, but when I moved down here, my family is predominantly cops. Like my grandfather, grandmother, my uncle. All this
I thought you were
stuff.
going to say predominantly white.
Well, that's yeah.
I mean, obviously,
yeah, cops. Yeah, exactly. But when I moved down here, I knew that people do coke and stuff, but the way people talk about it here in LA is how I would talk about beer.
Yes. At my old job, they tried to convince me that people use cocaine as much as weed. And I was like, there's just no way. They're like, trust me.
Dude,
here in LA, absolutely.
Yeah, in LA do drugs.
The first time I was in a green room here in LA, and a guy that is part owner of the club comes in before he's going on stage. And I'm in the green room and he just starts, I'm like, dude, that's cocaine. What are you doing? I'm like, what's going on, man?
You trying to make yourself small?
Yeah, I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, that's cocaine, man.
He's just doing
He's like, oh yeah. Dude, in front of me. And I was like, Yeah, it's crazy to me. So,
we did, yes.
we're total.
And she said by
squares.
22 you were done with coke.
So my parents were addicts when I was a kid. I was exposed to all this stuff. I knew what coke was when I was 6. I took my first rip off of a bong when I was 6. My parents didn't hold down the carbs, so it's fine. But
Hold on. Hold on, Jess. 6?
6.
Weed?
Just
You gotta stay off the weed.
Yeah, I don't like it now, so it's fine. I was doing a bump of coke. I had done like a 6-month coke thing and was like, oh, I don't like the way this makes you like chase more coke. I don't like that feeling. I don't like chasing anything. And so, but I had found I was drinking a lot. And I had found out that if you do a tiny bump of coke after a long night of drinking, you won't have a hangover the next day, which is a Jessa Reed life hack.
I mean, but you ended up on meth, so I was like, I don't know if we should have followed Jessa Reed's formula for life.
Yeah, no, this is how most of Jessa Reed life hacks turn out.
Now listen, kids, if you don't want a hangover, do a bump of coke. You also might get addicted to meth, but you won't have the hangover.
Don't do that life hack in Montana. So then when I did it, I felt like it was the secret to happiness, which was probably just
the meth,
the sleep deprivation. But yeah, instantly. I was instantly a host.
So wait, you asked a bartender for a line of white, is what you said. And then he was like, sure. And
then I did it.
No, okay, now because again, like Kevin, I don't know all the terms and everything. So like, I get that, like, if you say a line of white, I would immediately think cocaine. But in Montana, is that like, oh, they know that as that means meth?
That was his reaction. So back then, meth was different. It was something called crank, and it was powdery and whitish.
Oh, okay.
And so after I did it, and then was like, whoa, man, that's not coke. I said I wanted coke, like, and he said, "This is Butte, Montana. We don't have your city drugs here."
Hold on,
you think you're fancy with your?
He took well, we don't have your city drugs here in Butte. Now you want crank or you want weed?
Yeah,
we don't have your cocaine here.
That's hilarious.
I don't know if that was his accent, but the way you said that,
your city.
Why he took offense to that? What do you think we are, New York City?
Hoity-toity drugs.
You and your fancy drugs, your Narcos episodes.
Now, so
it's like a paste salsa commercial.
What is this?
New York
Get
cocaine.
Old El Paso meth.
Now, when you do coke, the initial you've done it before. What's the feeling when you do coke? That right when you do it, you snort it, and what's the immediate feeling when you do coke?
When you do coke, your nose gets numb, and it like numbs the back of your throat, and it's you just get excited and want to talk, and you come down very fast.
Okay, so you do this. You it sounds so weird. You do the meth, so you snort this meth. And what was the immediate feeling you got from that?
Like someone was holding a blowtorch on the back of my head.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, there's no numbing. You wish you had some coke to follow the meth because it's on fire.
But, okay, so my first thought would be, that doesn't sound like a fun feeling.
No,
But so then how do you...
That's why most people smoke it, I think. That's
what my question was. I didn't know you could snort meth. So... Is the high stronger if you smoke it?
You have very different highs. So
okay.
The snorting is you're pretty clear. You have a lot of physical energy. Smoking it, you kind of get in a loop of smoking it because the smoking it is addicting itself. Mm-hmm. You have to do it more often, and then it creates a very fuzzy high where you can't really accomplish anything. You kind of just chase your tail and just smoke more meth.
Right.
And then you have other ways of doing it also.
Got it.
And you've been sober how long now?
I quit on January 30th, 2005.
Gotcha. Okay.
Wow, so like 13 years, 14 years.
14 years.
14 years. So did you have to go to rehab to quit it, or did you go cold turkey?
For me, it just ran its course. This is not the story I've heard from anyone else, but I did it for about 5.5 years. It was my entire life, and I went very, very far and never once felt like I had hit a bottom because I was okay with the lifestyle. I just felt like these are the things that come with the decision that I've made to do drugs, and I like doing drugs more than the idea of going and doing what society thinks I should do. And so all the people around me would try. A lot of the people around me would go to detox or go to rehab or whatever. And I was like, you should just give me your drugs because you're wasting them. I mean, this wishy-washy, commit, you know. And so then one day I had just gotten myself into a relationship that was abusive, and I didn't line up with how I saw myself as a person, and but because the drugs complicated things, I kept circling back to this relationship, and so I decided to move across the country. I arranged to have drugs sent to me across the country, and then on the airplane I was like, I'm gonna get ripped off by some tweakers. That's what's gonna happen. Tweakers are not gonna make it to the United States Postal Service to send me my drugs. They're gonna do my drugs, and then I'm going to be frustrated, or they're gonna send me my drugs and I'm gonna sit in Delaware and be high by myself. I'll just quit. And that was it.
Really? So you didn't trust that I sent my drugs ahead, but they're never gonna make it.
Yeah, I just played the tape forward and just felt like there were a few things leading up to this where I was like, yeah, I think I've done everything that this has to offer.
Yeah.
And so I'm terrible when people ask, like, how do I get clean? I'm just like, just let it run its course. Just quit trying to
just
quit
do it for 5 years.
Yeah.
If you don't die, then
go commit though. Go all the way in.
Exactly.
Don't stand 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because it takes longer.
It's when you say commit, the next question, which I know the answer to, but people ask, did you have to get dental work?
Yes. So my teeth fell out immediately. My teeth fell out. Yes. It was, I already had bad teeth. I think I already had soft teeth. I'd already had an implant put in. I had a child when I was a teenager, and after that my teeth were very bad. They fell out very quickly.
All of them.
Yeah, it was like a 2-year process as they all died and fell out one by one. I broke into a dental office with some fellow tweakers, and while they were looking for the nitrous and the things to sell, I was like, amalgam, that sounds like something I could make teeth out of.
Are you serious? You're looking for supplies?
Oh, I never told you this?
No.
I stole all the supplies and everything to make teeth, and then I got on the internet and figured out how to mix the stuff, and then I would just create bridges to look like I had teeth connected to what teeth were left. And if you were up close, it was like, what is happening in there? But from far away, it just looked like I had a grill. And but then as those bridges would come out, they would take a lot more teeth with them. And so then I learned how to. So
you glued them onto your actual teeth with
dental. I fashioned them. I would mix the stuff and then put it in on top of what was left, and then I would polish it and shape it before it dried so that it looked like teeth. And then as those teeth fell out, I did further dental. I don't know how hardcore you want me to get on this, but I learned how to open the gums up and put the remaining teeth up in there. So
we want to get it hardcore.
Yeah. Okay.
How did how were you learning? Like YouTube videos, or what were you doing?
Some YouTube video. We didn't have YouTube yet. So some internet stuff, but a lot of just kind of like intuitive, like what makes sense here. So each tooth as it dies, it would abscess, and then it would also, you'd end up with an exposed nerve at some point.
Yeah.
And the exposed nerve was just like someone just electrocuting you. And so I learned after a couple teeth that if I could just, I would get very high and get very, very focused, and then I would cut the gum open, and then I would saw the tooth down as far as I could so that the gum could grow back over it. Sorry, I know.
We want this info.
We absolutely want.
It's I didn't know this about that you. I remember, so when the Big Sky, when we did Big Sky, I remember, and like I said, before we had met, I had heard of you and people just complimented you as a great comic and this and that. And then I remember we were in Big Sky that first year in 2014. And I remember we went to go eat. Yeah. and Jess is this is one thing I love about comics in general, but Jess specifically is very, open, and comics are very open about. I mean, like we talk about it on stage,
exactly.
all our faults and everything.
Have to.
And Jess, so we're at this trampoline park or laser tag, and people are eating, and Jess is over on the side, and you had dentures at the time, and you had to take them out, and you would clean them, and then I mean, it wasn't like she was just like, "Hey guys, hold on." I mean, she did it like. I try
to be discreet, but I'm not. They require a lot of re-gluing, and someone did just give me free implants.
So these are current. These are not just.
This is dentures over
teeth.
top of implants that are currently fusing with my bone. But a dentist.
Hold on, what now?
I glued my teeth in on Bert Kreischer's podcast, and a dentist from Portland saw it, who has a podcast, and I went and did his podcast, and he said, "Do you want me to give you free dental implants?" Which was like $20,000.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. So it's not implants because I haven't had teeth in so long. I can't get like individual implants without a bone graft and everything. But there are currently 8 rods in my mouth that are fusing with the bone for 6 months. And then I will be able to click something that he makes so that I will...
First of all dental work sounds painful.
Yeah.
But you were doing this with no anesthesia.
On your own.
You were just like...
I learned how to to take pain and move it from one category of reason to another and kind of make it abstract or take it and move it to a part of your brain that's more tolerant of pain, like sex or something. And so I would just move that pain and experience it differently. And if I was very focused, I couldn't have anyone else around distracting me. And then I could just do what needed to be done. Otherwise, the exposed nerve was just...
Thank God for the meth.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that now.
Remember on Castaway when he had like one toothache and it was like 20 minutes and he knocked it out? It was like the biggest thing. You did implants on yourself. That just, I don't know. You had a child. Where would you rank that in pain in relation to childbirth?
After this experience, I was able to have my next 2 children at home, no drugs.
You were just like watching TV.
10
Did it herself.
10-pound children with no screaming or crying or anything because of what I learned with my teeth. I was just able to be like...
She's just like...
Yeah.
All right, there's one kid.
She's like, it's like gas. You know?
One controlled breath, and she's like, "Wah," and people are like dying when they're. Wow.
Now I've always been curious with this, like, you know, different drugs have side effects of it or whatever, and meth you always hear about, like it affects your teeth. Why is that?
You know what's very strange since I did the Comedy Central thing with the meth story is how many Meth Mouth truthers there are out there. There are a lot of people that are like Meth Mouth is a myth. I do meth every weekend. There's a lot of people offended like this is a myth.
First of all, the phrase "Meth Mouth truther" is something I never thought I would hear.
I actually stole that from Connor McSpadden. I just realized as I said it. So it's because your mouth dries out, is what I've read. It dries your mouth out, so your mouth can't
produce enough saliva to keep your teeth moist.
Your teeth moist and get rid of the bacteria. But you could put meth on a metal scooper and then leave it there, and it would eat through the metal. It has lye in it. I mean, so I think I think smoking it, especially, it just sticks to your teeth. But I remember standing at one point. I was like standing at a store or something, and then one of my teeth, I wasn't eating anything, I wasn't drinking anything, there was no extreme temperatures, and one of my teeth went like when you put water into an ice cube and the ice cube do that, and then it just cracked into my mouth, just sitting there. There was no pressure on it, nothing. So I don't know what exactly it is. I don't think they know.
Okay, so one of the questions, do you think weed is a gateway drug?
My beliefs...
starting at 6, I feel like you could answer probably better than anyone.
Yeah, so that was one bong hit just because the adults around me thought that was funny. I didn't get high, but...
You didn't get high? Dang, you had a high tolerance at 6?
There was like, back then, there's a carb. You had to hold a button to keep regular oxygen from coming through, and they didn't hold that. So I just thought I was taking a bong hit.
Okay.
But I mean, I was around people smoking weed. I knew what it was. I knew what coke was. My feelings on... drugs have changed and addiction has changed significantly in the last few years. I feel like weed is medicine. I do believe that weed is medicine. And I don't think it is a gateway drug. However, I think that teaching your kids that weed is the same thing as pills is dangerous. And because your kids are probably going to smoke weed at some point, and I think that lumping them together with opiates is dangerous.
Kids,
they're all look. I got a 24-year-old and a 16-year-old. They're all going to try it.
Says Aunt Jojo, you will see me cast.
And if you have this just blanket,
everything is equally as bad.
You run the risk of your kids thinking that taking a Percocet is the same thing as smoking weed, and it's not. One's going to cost you your life. And so I do not think it's a gateway drug, and I do not think it should be classified with other drugs. I personally think it's better than alcohol. I don't like it.
Right.
I don't smoke it. I don't like it, but I don't feel.
Do you feel like the highs. So you said you were done with cocaine. Was that the highs weren't as high anymore, or you just were bored of it?
I think kind of the same thing. I think I'm someone that can look at the pros and the cons pretty easily and separate that from a desire to chase something. And so there's something about Coke where you do it and it's super fun and euphoric, but then you come down pretty fast and then you chase it. And I don't like that. I don't like that in relationships. I don't like that Jones feeling. Right. And so I just had rejected it as not worth the money. And it was fun. I did it for a little bit. I experienced it, and then was.
It seems like you were like looking at drugs as like not well. From what you're saying, it's like you classify this like I will do this. I am now done with this.
Yes.
Do you think the people around you, was it that same thing, or you? No. It seems like you're very original in that. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't seem like people they just get addicted and they can't stop. But it doesn't seem like that's been the case for you.
My entire experience with drugs was different than everyone else I know. I don't believe I'm an addict. I don't believe I know what the disease of addiction is, and I know a lot of people that have it. I went into using because I felt disillusioned with life. I tried to find the thing that I was looking for in religions and spirituality, and I couldn't find it. I had a lot of broken parts of myself. I had a childhood that I needed to process, and a lot of shame and guilt and low self-esteem. And meth gave me this opportunity to leave society while I figured it out, and leave the expectations, leave time, leave the 9-to-5 rat race, leave all of it, and go figure it out. And so I came out of that healed and better, and nobody else did. Nobody else had that experience. I wasn't pining for my old life. I felt like it gave me an escape from a life that I felt was imposed upon me. And so when I came back from it, I didn't need it. It did what I needed it to do.
So do you feel like in some way that using meth, you found that thing you were looking for, or you decided to stop looking?
Absolutely. My mother was an addict as a kid, and so I believed that I was not wanted and that she hated me. And then all of these things that happened in my life, I had a lot of dark things happen in my life, and they all just kind of fed into this narrative that it was me, that I was innately wrong, that I was innately bad. And I wasn't able to find my way out of that. I would have been stuck circling that. I would have attracted more relationships to my life that kind of mirrored that self-hate. And by going and doing drugs, I was able to stand in her shoes and realize, well, she did love me. All of that seemed like she hated me was just a woman that was high. She was just high. She just didn't have anything to give me because she was high. And so it took years off of this process of processing my childhood and allowed me to step in at 29 years old, step in who I should be. I think it would have taken decades.
Now, when you were in the thralls of addiction of meth, or when you were on meth, did your family disown you?
They thought I was dead for a few years.
Really?
I went missing. So I had a daughter who I left with family, and I didn't see her from her 5th birthday till she was 13.
Dang.
Because after I got clean, she was like 10. And I contacted them, and they said, she doesn't want to see you. And I was like, all right, I'll wait. And she found me on MySpace later. My mom, I would show up every once in a while when she was at work and rob her for a while. But then there were just like, time got away from me, and I was gone for a long time.
You mean that literally?
Yeah, like steal her stuff or steal her checkbook or whatever.
Okay,
not like hold her up at gunpoint.
I'd go grab a pie from my mom's house. Like, borrow her. Mom, VCR. You know what time it is?
Yeah, no, I'd not like rob at gunpoint, but like steal her things or steal her money, take her checkbook. My dad lived on the East Coast, and he thought I was dead. Like he tells stories about. He does a lot of work with people whose children are addicted, and he tells stories of like Christmas, just crying, imagining me under a bridge or imagining me dead or whatever.
You know, I think about that with homeless people, or people who are addicted to drugs or mental health issues. Like they're like wandering the streets of LA, and I wonder what their family thinks. Do you feel like, did your family give up on you at one point, or did you just lose contact? Because at some point, like, did you feel like you could even contact your family during this time, or did you not want to?
One thing I think I'm very grateful for is that my parents were addicts, and my dad, they were both in recovery by the time I started using. But because I was raised by addicts, I understood that they shouldn't help me, that they shouldn't enable me, and that they wouldn't. And so I never asked. I never tried to get them. I just went and did my thing. They never tried to drag me to rehab or drag me to an intervention. They didn't try to stop the train. They let it do its thing, which was painful for them. But when I came back and was like ready to get my life together, I was ready. It was my first try. I was ready. And then they were able to step in and help me. And we didn't have these years. I see people who don't understand addiction. I see people who don't understand that you can't stop this. It doesn't matter how much you love them. You can't make them get clean for you.
Right.
And they exhaust all their money. They clean out their savings to send their kid to rehab before their kid's ready to go to rehab. And they put all this damage and weight on their relationship, where I just went and did my thing. And when I was ready, I came back.
Yeah.
And they kind of attracted me back.
Do you feel like people do that? I mean, I guess you kind of said it, not understanding, but do you feel like people that trying to help is maybe further fractures the relationship?
Yeah, I think the more times, and I just heard something on another podcast that said that this isn't true, but my experience is, I think the more times you try and fail, the more hopeless things become.
Right.
And I can really only relate that to my experience. The only thing I ever feel like I've been truly addicted to and powerless to was food. And
you're preach,
because I have had that experience. Yeah. I have had that experience of losing and gaining, but then also like swearing I'm gonna keep this together this time, and then next thing you know I binge, and then I'm ashamed, and then I get on a diet and I lose some weight, and then in one weekend I ruin it, you know, and I just think how
like
hopeless.
You seem more like food was like, now meth is one thing, but doggone
food is
pizza.
the only thing. Yeah, food is the only thing that I have ever felt like an addict. Like I have ever felt, and I am okay now.
Yeah,
I've had to do a lot of work on that, but that's the only thing I can relate to. When I would listen to people talk in meetings, I never felt that way about drugs. I was like, oh, I did drugs because I felt like doing drugs, and then when I stopped feeling like doing drugs, I stopped. I did the same thing with cigarettes. I said, this is my last cigarette. When I smoked it, I never smoked another cigarette.
Wow.
But food was something that there was all this negotiation and all of this, whatever. And it's because I didn't want the consequences.
Right.
I still wanted the food. I didn't want the consequences. And I had to reconcile what did I really want? Because when I would lose the weight and I would be happy with that. But then I would sit and think about food constantly, and I would envy that other people get to eat stuff, and I would be resentful at a party that I don't get to have this pasta or whatever. And, you know, I had to like reconcile all that. But
I think that's interesting because I think people who say they're addicted to food, we like, you can't be. But you using hard drugs and being like, that's nothing compared to food addiction, really kind of cast that in a totally different light that I don't think, I know I never had really thought about it like that, because it's like, because you have to eat, people just like, oh, you just choose to eat or whatever. But it seems like from what you're saying, that addiction to food can be equally strong or stronger than addiction to drugs, at least for you in your case.
Absolutely. It's something you have to eat.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. We have incorporated it. People say this about alcohol, but I think it's so much worse with food. We incorporate it into everything. I did end up finding that I am physically allergic sensitive to several of the foods that I was addicted to. But those are like wheat and dairy. So those are everywhere. So and there's so much shame. We're getting better, but there's so much shame in the society about weight and stuff. And, you know, I grew up as a woman, a young woman in the 90s, where it was, you know, we weren't getting exposed to any real bodies. And we just had all of these things.
And there was no such thing as fat shaming, or it was just like, and we didn't even know Photoshop or whatever they were using as Photoshop.
Yeah.
We thought the magazine version of you was you. Like now we know that's photoshopped and airbrushed, but like Cindy Crawford, like we thought, man, she's just really walking around looking like that, you know? So that actually makes a lot of sense, because we were just like, man, that's, and nobody really, even those people don't even look like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're trying to compare ourselves to like a digitized version of somebody who's in, you know, great quote unquote shape.
Yeah.
Now, when you were like, okay, I'm done with meth, withdrawals?
So the withdrawals from meth are different than like heroin. Withdrawals from meth is about, I think it was about 18 days of extreme sleep. So I would be up for a couple hours a day. Your body is just trying to find equilibrium again. The dopamine, serotonin, whatever, are all trying to readjust. They say that it takes a full year to experience happiness after getting clean from meth, and that was not my experience at all. I had a great time. I think I went and moved back to Delaware with my dad. Everything I accomplished was an accomplishment.
Right.
I was very committed to what I was doing. I'm someone who moves very fast. I'm also just kind of a happy person anyway. It takes a lot to make me not feel happy, but sleeping nightmares. And then have you ever had that thing where you feel like you're falling from the ceiling?
Yeah.
It's that all night.
Oh.
And
that's the
like
worst
muscle
ever.
cramps and stuff, but nothing compared to what heroin addicts have to go through.
So you talked about leaving your daughter. Would you say that was the most difficult part of your? Well, I guess it's not. Can I say addiction or?
No, you definitely. Yeah,
of your addiction or your getting sober, having to deal with the things that you did when you were using?
I don't think I had the capacity to love or attach to anyone before I went out and healed. And so leaving her felt easier than when I got clean and realized what I had done.
Right.
But there was kind of an acceptance and still kind of a little bit of a belief that she was better off without me.
Sure.
And so I think, I don't know what the hardest part about getting sober was. It all felt so good to accomplish all these things that like even the cleaning up of the wreckage of the past, a lot of addicts, they get clean and it just looks like this insurmountable thing
to get back to or undo the stuff that you did.
But my personality is just something that loves that. It's just like, okay, here's a messy room, I'm just gonna start cleaning it, and then I like the process of cleaning it. So it's like I didn't have a driver's license, I had to figure out the teeth thing, I had to figure out this stuff. I did have an amazing support system with my family, and I just checked things off, and I knew that she would come back when she was ready. And that if she chose to never come back, then that was what was best for her, you know. So overall, getting clean was an amazing experience.
Go ahead, Jay.
I was gonna say, did you ever get bad meth, and what is that like? What's the difference between, I guess, a good meth high and a bad meth high?
Bad meth high would just be that you don't get high.
Oh.
So if people like cut it with something or whatever, I had like climbed the ranks to good meth, pretty much.
Did you ever make your own?
I tried. I did. There were a couple times where a boyfriend and I had meth cooks use the apartment that we were living in to cook meth. I did go through a thing where I thought I could turn pee into meth.
You were high.
Yeah.
Talked about it on our Comedy Central. This is not happening.
Yeah, you can find that on YouTube. The worst high I was during a phase where I was shooting up. There's something called cotton fever, where something foreign gets into the thing you're shooting up, and then your body goes crazy trying to get it out, and that's the sickest and the worst I've ever felt. And it will just go on until you shoot up again. But I didn't know that. I didn't even know what cotton fever was. So I just almost died in a room until someone came in and was like, "Oh, you have to get high again, otherwise that's never going away."
Wow. Is there anything that you like? If you can't talk about it, let us know. But is there anything that you did? Like, what are the things that you would do to get high? Because, I mean, were you able to hold down a job, or were you just
basically you're like sex?
Well, I mean, you said you robbed your mom, but was there a point where you went to rob your mom and she didn't have nothing? You're just like, all right, I got to do something else.
No, and I mostly robbed her out of like spite. I felt like I needed to punish her for whatever perceived rejection I experienced as a kid, and that was definitely not a permanent means to an end. I sold drugs for a while, intermittently sold drugs. I had a boyfriend who was collecting unemployment, one of these times where there was like 99 weeks of unemployment.
2008?
No, I did cash in on that one though too.
I did.
It's kind of like almost like when you take all the societal stuff away, it's just we kind of naturally fall into a role where everybody finds what their hustle is. And so I ran with a group of identity thieves, but I didn't have teeth, so I couldn't participate in any of that.
Right.
But I was interesting, and I was had a near-death experience and had a lot of insight that helps people with their emotional trauma.
Right.
And so I just was kind of I was taken care of. I had somebody give me a triplex for a year.
What's a triplex?
Like 3 apartments. It's like a house with 3 apartments in it. He just gave me the house. Someone else gave me an adult foster care home that had 9 bedrooms in it.
What?
Who are these people?
Someone else gave me half of a duplex. And so I was very rarely homeless. I was actually very rarely without a car. I did have these like very brief experiences. Sorry, I have a cold.
That's a
But overall, I was very well taken care of. I almost always had drugs. And
Dang, you're getting cars. I'm like, maybe I should do meth.
with very little
You're
hustle.
not a white woman though.
Yeah. Everyone else around me had hustle.
Yeah,
That was actually a question. Is
Yeah.
somebody which I don't understand it, but I mean that's what the show is for. Somebody asked, did it help being white?
Well, think about it. Like during the crack epidemic in DC, it was black people there's an epidemic, right? Now, when white women in suburban, Minnesota, I think, or it's an opioid crisis. You know what I mean? So law enforcement is treating young black men selling drugs very differently than house moms using heroin. It's
Okay,
even
okay,
like
I got you
weeds.
now.
Like
No, I have very strong feelings on the subject. This is if I have one drug-related platform, it is the difference between the crack epidemic being criminal and the heroin epidemic being a public health crisis, because now it's the suburban white kids instead of that's
so you agree or disagree?
I absolutely agree. I think this is one of the strongest pieces of evidence for white privilege. It's no different. It's no different. You got a drug took over your life and you're doing whatever it takes to get that drug. There's absolutely no difference. But the perception and the way that we were presented with the crack epidemic and
get these people
cracking
to jail
down.
and
I don't think drug addicts should be in jail, period. I don't
Right.
think that we should put drug addicts in jail. All you're doing is teaching them how to become criminals. I think that everyone that was put in jail for crack and weed and for everything else should be taken out and be
What about the drug
rehabilitated.
dealers?
Drug dealers are usually drug addicts. So high up, the
those
whole
people
like
usually aren't drug addicts.
right.
People who are really high up.
They're also not in prison
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah.
Right.
I think another pet peeve of mine is the people who say on Facebook, "Let's kill your local heroin dealer," and it's like, why don't you go talk to the pharmaceutical companies? Because most of the heroin addicts I know got addicted to pills first.
Prescription pills. Really?
Yeah. So you get addicted to the pills because they just hand them out like they're candy, and then you get cut off, and you're addicted. You're physically addicted.
My wife had a C-section, and she was so afraid of getting addicted to drugs that she took maybe 1 or 2 Percocet, and then was just like, "Nope, I would rather feel the pain than risk getting addicted to
Absolutely.
pills."
I won't take them after surgery. So, was it easier to be a tweaker on being white? Yeah, I think everything's easier being white. My best friends were a family of black dudes. We all got beaten by the cops. Like when you're a criminal, everybody's getting hit.
Right.
Like I got a cracked rib from cops. I didn't have teeth. I looked like so I didn't get treated like I would get treated now, looking like I'm from the suburbs.
Yeah.
But and while we were all still together, they never went to jail because they were the smartest. They were smarter than all of the other people. And I never went to jail. I get picked up all the time, but I was insane. Talking about aliens and stuff.
Right.
So the cops would just be like, "Get out. Just get out." Like they would
I
not
didn't want to deal with the paperwork.
I think that was a big reason that people kept me around, is because I was intelligent and I was entertaining, but also if the cops came, like I wasn't rolling on anybody, because I would just be like, "All right, so I was sent by the collective consciousness to awaken a group of," and then cops were like, get out.
That's the first sentence in, and I'm just like,
Do you ever feel like do you ever have any triggers or feel like you'll ever use it again? And if you do have triggers, how do you cope with those?
I like psychedelics. Other than that, I'm disinterested. I don't like alcohol. I don't like the way it makes me feel. I don't have any interest in drinking it. Pot, by the time I was 20, made me self-conscious and hungry, and I don't need more of. I got plenty of those without it. I think acid's fun every once in a while. I will never even take I don't take opiates for anything. I've had 2 surgeries that I'll just sweat it out afterwards. I do not like the way it feels, and I am not. I think those are very dangerous substances that will take the lives of people that aren't even addicts. Meth, it ran its course. I don't like being around people. I'm around people doing piles of coke. I don't care about it in the business. You see it all the time. So I just don't care. It's fine. Meth, if someone's I have a family member addicted to meth, and I can't be around her when she's tweaking just because it feels like this is a part of my life I left behind. I'm not taking any chances. I don't want to be somewhere that I know meth is in there. I wouldn't say it's tempting. People vaping is weirdly triggering.
Really? Interesting.
Because meth smoke is exactly like vape smoke.
Like light,
that
kind of
big
bellowing. Thank
yeah.
you.
Clouds.
I said light, so I don't know much about like wispy. No, the opposite.
The exact opposite. And then people shooting up in movies, but all that does is just like causes a physical response, and then that's it. It doesn't make me like want to go get high.
I wonder, like, so my pops he's an alcoholic. I mean, he's like functioning alcoholic, I guess you'd say, but.
Yeah.
So like not so much anymore because I'm old, but like back when I would get hammered, when you're young and you drink and stuff. But even back then and still to this day, like if I'm around people that are drinking and I'm not, I get that feeling where I'm just like, I don't want to be around it. And it's just, if I'm drinking with them or I have a little buzz on from drinking, I'm fine. But if I'm sober and people are drinking, I'm like, I gotta get out of here.
People are also irritating when they're drunk.
Nothing is more irritating than seeing a drunk person when you're sober.
Oh, yes.
When I was in Vegas for a shoot a while ago, and you just like, they're just walking around and loud, and you're just like, fam, move out the way.
Answering the same question over and over
it's
again.
Just like, bro, and they have no idea, especially in Vegas, it's a lot of strangers, but I'm glad we all can agree. We're like, drunks. I have a question that a lot of people kind of ask, like, what was your routine? What was a day in the life of like a meth addict? Was most of those days the same?
Time didn't exist.
Oh.
So your day could be 24 hours. It could be 5 hours. Dark, light, it didn't matter. And we were within a pod of like 50 to 100 of us where people were in and out of jail, but time didn't exist for any of us. The way that people behave on meth is directly connected to whatever insecurities they have as a person.
Yeah.
So this is something I noticed, that people who don't like themselves spend a lot of their day picking their face in the mirror or whatever, and it's just kind of like a representation of what's going on the inside of them. I did a lot of like art, a lot of collage art. I printed a lot of information off the internet and like speed read it.
So it was really productive for you to be on that.
Yeah. But you like can't accomplish anything. You could never hold down a job.
like your arts and crafts. You're like reading, you're studying,
dental school.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I wanted to say that you were talking about you don't like taking, like when you're having surgery, you just muscle through it. And when you had your kids, when you had the dental work done recently, did you get novocaine?
There's novocaine, but like I did not get put under or anything.
Okay.
I was awake for it, and I had to like several times be like, I'm going to throw up now, and so we had to wait for a second while because that is a hardcore procedure. 8 of them put in.
Dental work is so painful.
Yeah.
Even just getting like your wisdom teeth taken out is like super painful.
Yeah,
you were
this
just
is
like
drilling screws up into your bone.
Oh.
You talked about people picking their face. I noticed a lot of pictures of meth abusers or users. Their face has like a lot of like craters and stuff. Is
cystic acne?
Is that caused by meth, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's caused by meth. It's also caused by messing with your face, like digging. When you have a pimple or whatever, you just leave it, and they would just be like digging in it. I knew one woman that cut a hole or cut a line across her forehead because there's a lot of like, if you're real messed up, if you have a lot of like parts of yourself that you're hiding from yourself, if you're very self-deceptive or whatever, meth will push it out. Like it triggers a lot of mental illness. And so I knew a woman that cut a hole across her forehead because she thought she felt a hair growing across it. People would carve themselves open because there were bugs under their skin and stuff.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. Like it feels like bugs crawling or whatever.
Yeah, and part of that is like just take a shower, dog. You feel better, but I didn't have any. I was born to tweak. Like I was very good at it. I was already like not quite hinged.
It's my favorite Bruce Springsteen song, "Born to Tweak." Is there any other than your teeth? Did it affect your body? Any long-term effects on your body?
Well, I did spend 4 hours staring at the sun one day.
What?
Mm-hmm. That did affect my body. I have macular scars, so I have blind spots from that.
From one instance.
Well, 4 hours of staring in the sun.
Look, your
Time
body
doesn't
does
exist.
not want to stare at the sun. Your body, the way that my body rejected staring at the sun. So there was a point where I felt like everything was a lie. Like everything society told you was a lie. And I was questioning a lot of things.
Well, that one is true. Staring at
I was like, what's the first thing they tell you? Don't look at the sun. This one's definitely a lie. There's an answer on the other side of the sun. So I went down to the Pioneer Courthouse Square in Portland, Oregon, and laid my eyes on the sun's altar. They were 20/20 before this too, and you have to hold them open.
Oh my god!
Like that scene in Bird Box?
Yeah, I'm just like clockwork oranging.
Oh dang!
Holes into my macula. And like my whole body, like I was almost throwing up. There was just snot and tears and everything else. Like my body was like, please stop.
And you were just like, nope, everybody's lying to me.
Lie.
There's so many things in my life that I just would love to talk to one of the people that watched me. Like just somebody else that was down there like, what is this?
Oh,
so from like 11 to 3 in the afternoon, just the worst possible
So what
time.
made you stop looking at the sun? You're like, man, this is just getting worse.
It just felt like I did it. I was like,
like I
just,
can't see it anymore.
it's just a ball of fire. And then I was blind. I was stone cold blind for days. And then the spots got smaller and smaller. And as they got smaller, it got to the point where I could see your face, but not your mouth, which is creepy when you're high on meth. And now they're very small, but they're small enough to make it to where if there's more than one brunette in a movie, I can't tell them apart.
So when you watched Ocean's 8, you were just like,
I don't know what.
Is there really
What is
8
this
people
movie
in
about?
Ocean's 8? That was the movie you chose.
I'm trying to think of the movie with the most white men in it. Bridesmaids.
Oh.
There was like 5 of them in it.
How did you pay for the meth?
We kind of covered that. I was everyone's spiritual advisor.
Okay, all right, got you. Yeah.
I was listening, Jess. I wasn't going to ask you that question.
I'm sorry, what?
You actually answered so many questions in like
Yeah.
just your
Dude,
story.
I've been like knocking them off.
She's just like, no. You answered like 4 or 5 questions in any one. Oh, this is one. What do you feel about safe dosing facilities?
I think that harm reduction is a good answer. I think decriminalize it, harm reduction, and rehab that includes helping people get like their entire life back on track.
Right.
Where, like I said, that thing for most people, because a lot of people don't have like parents to step in and help. So
Yeah.
I was able to move across the country to my dad's house, and my dad was in recovery, so he knew how to help me. And then, he made me help myself.
Right.
So it was like, we'll put the money up for you to get your driver's license back, but you have to pay us back. And so I was able to just like kind of step, but not everyone has that. And so I think they're starting to make these moves towards places that are like halfway houses.
Right.
And the halfway houses help you get a job, help you get your education finished, help you get your things together, help you do all this before you go out on your own. And I think that is the way. But I think first and foremost, stop treating addicts like criminals and treat them like addicts, which, people don't like that. People like let's just be mad at them.
Yeah. That'll help. Do you think the as far as like criminalizing, do you think like the for-profit prison model has a lot to do with that?
Yes, I'm so anti the for-profit prison model. All we're doing is taking people further outside of society,
right?
And it is just a way to hurt poor people.
Yeah,
it's to make money. It's not
the way to hurt. Because people with money are not affected by the judicial system the way people.
They can get better lawyers.
Bro, the Khalif Browder story and the Sandra Bland story, like Sandra Bland's bail was $500. She died in police custody in that jail because her family couldn't come up with $500. Khalif Browder, very similar. Like rich people, like whether the person's guilty or not is irrelevant. You're getting bailed out.
Yeah.
So, but when you're poor, $500, and I'm not saying that I remember when $500 was an insane amount of money, and among my family, we probably could have got it. But there's some people, they don't know anybody to get that. They have no means to do that, so they're waiting for trial dates or their first thing because they don't have $500.
And then they're going to face people with prejudices and people who've never had any struggle or poverty in their life.
Yes.
And their
a
decisions
jury
about
who
their
thinks
life.
like that.
Yeah. I don't. The entire system is rigged.
Do you think the for-profit prison system preys on people who are addicted to drugs?
Preys on people who are addicted to drugs, preys on poor people, and then keeps that division there. So identity thieves would sometimes do federal time, which is where all of the white collar criminals are going.
Yeah.
And that is Club Med compared
Yes.
to what someone doing state time.
Right.
And so when you take someone who's addicted to drugs and then you put them into an environment where they have to fight for their life and try to survive, and they have to go even further away from the rules of the society in order to survive. I know a lot of people who were just like innocently addicted to drugs and came out knowing several different ways to commit more crime.
Right.
And you're exposing them to trauma, and they're being treated awful by authority.
Yeah.
There's nothing about this that's going to reintegrate someone into society. There's nothing about this that is helping. And then when you find out how much money, it should never be private for profit. It should never be private for profit.
Insane thing for regardless of your crime. The fact that somebody was like, you know what, we should make a business model off of that, because anybody who's running a business knows that you want to stay in business, you want to maximize profit, minimize costs, and now you're taking, laws are created by people who will never be affected by these laws or these systems, and you're making. I mean, it was like we watched a documentary, The 13. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it talks about how much money's in the telephonic industry in prison, food, healthcare. Like, it's in their best interest for people to stay in prison.
Yeah.
And getting you out of prison is bad for business. So of course I'm going to bribe lobbyists for people to increase crime and maximum sentencing and all that type of stuff. So it's really unfortunate that it preys on people who are poor. You know what I mean?
It's absolutely corrupt, because if you take someone who has the money to fight it, they're going to fight it.
Yeah, and they're going to win.
So you just funnel these people. I don't have a doubt in my mind that judges are getting paid.
Absolutely. They've been convicted.
Cops have to hit a certain amount of I'm so glad that we live in a society now where they're being recorded and we're seeing what they do. Like, I'd already been exposed to that. What not to be like anti-cops, but like I'd already been exposed to what it's really like when you are not living in the privilege that I get to experience now because I look like I'm something different.
Right.
It's absolutely corrupt. It's corrupt on every single level. There's not a level that it's not corrupt on. And then we are just taking we took an entire generation and put them through the prison system and then act like we're here to save their children or whatever, when it's like, you took their dads and put them in prison. You got all of them addicted. How did the crack even get here? Y'all brought the cocaine over. Like, the entire thing is,
we talked about this before,
so corrupt.
George H.W. Bush wanted to, people ran on the war on drugs, which you can't win wars on ideas anyway. But they wanted to prove that crack was being sold across the street from the White House. So they went and found a drug dealer and brought him to the, you guys have been to the White House. You can't sell drugs across the street from the White House. But they got a guy there so George Bush could hold it up on the TV and say, this is crack. That, he went to jail for 20, 30 years, and then all those mandatory sentencing laws, they get approved. And people go on, like President Bill Clinton did so much damage on prison. Then after 8 years, it's just something to run on.
Yeah.
I just want to run on this. He goes and lives his life. People are in jail for 20, 30 years. And most times, they just want to feed their family. Yeah. They have no way to do it. You're poor. There's not as many good jobs. It's hard to go into school. So you really have no options. And how hard it is to think about people knowing what they're facing jail time and still sell drugs. They know they have no other option because they still have to do it. It's not like hardly anybody's becoming, Pablo Escobar or, most people are low level people who are risking 20, 30 years in jail and they still have no other option.
Yeah, they are addicts themselves, or they are people trying to survive in a society where the system is rigged against them, and then that is used as a way. And the punishments are not proportionate in any way, shape, or form. I see mandatory minimums. I mean, I watch a lot of people get hurt by even mandatory minimums on violent crime, but there's a big difference between being addicted to drugs, selling low-level amounts of drugs, and the thing is, if you roll into a party. If cops happen to roll into a party in LA with people with 3 8 balls of coke, they are not going to get treated like a kid on the street with 3 small bags of coke. It just isn't. And then they act like they're the heroes, or they act like this whole system is so that you can make money. Like that's it. The whole entire system is so that you all have money in your pockets, but then the PR on it is bananas. Yeah. And so I'm glad that we are finally starting to see it. I'm so glad that we have the technology so that cops are getting filmed. I'm glad that judges are getting called on. I think the perception, just the statement that the attorney for Brock Turner made said everything you needed. Everything you needed to hear. God. I don't want to ruin your life. What? How many kids does he have at home?
Oh my God. Yeah. It's infuriating. The difference. It is just literally, I mean.
There's a power shift and I love it. I'm just watching. I'm watching them all snivel. I have to watch people kneel at the football game. And I'm like, oh, is that hard for you? Was that hard for you? Did you shed any tears when people were getting shot in the streets? Did that bother you? Did you have to watch somebody kneel during your precious song?
Jess is about that business. I love it. Because that is using your privilege and understanding your privilege, like that you experience it very differently than somebody who's poor and black.
Right.
Like, and understanding that.
Absolutely.
And that's the case for a lot of things in the world. But, it's the first step is acknowledging it. You know, if you really can't do anything about it until you acknowledge that the world is different for me.
Absolutely.
And it should not be that way.
Right. Absolutely. And I don't understand, and it's frustrating. I feel like the role as an ally is much less talking about being an ally on Facebook and much more have the conversations with the white people that don't get it. Like have the conversations. We do not live in the same world. We're standing next to each other, but we are living in a different reality.
Absolutely.
I was stealing at Safeway the other day. I just needed to keep the basket. I was like, I keep the basket. I need the basket for a couple days. I'll bring it back.
Right.
But I was definitely stealing a Safeway basket the other day. And as I was putting it in the back of my car, the security guard runs out and I was like, well, this is awkward to get caught doing this at 41. Right. And rather than doing anything to me, who is right in front of his face putting a Safeway thing into the back of my car, he stops a black man walking past me and searches his backpack, which had nothing in it. Nothing stolen. And while I'm standing there watching, I just stand there with the Safeway.
You wanted to be like, I want the cop.
And literally stealing right in front of you.
I'm stealing right in front of his face. And I look over at the man who's being searched, and he's humiliated and annoyed. And I'm annoyed for him.
Yeah.
And I want to say something, but I'm also stealing. And so we just look at each other, and I stand there because I'm like, I'm going to stand here with this basket until he turns around, because now I feel like I should get caught.
Right.
And I didn't. And that's so frustrating to me. Like, it was just based on that I look like I'm someone's mom from the suburbs.
Yeah.
And these teeth look hella real.
Yeah.
And that's just, we're just living in a different reality, and we could change it so much faster if we would all just acknowledge that we are living in a different reality. And it is insane.
Yeah.
Insane to pretend I had to work for what I got.
Oh. Jess, you about to this whole episode about to be about something other. Like, there's so many things that people don't realize are just easier for you because you think, and even me, me and Jay were talking about male privilege. Like, there's a world that we live in where women they have to fear for their lives, and a lot of times they got to be aware of their surroundings. And when somebody called me on it, I was like, oh snap! Like, I didn't realize that it's different for women because it's not like that for me. I use this analogy about being left-handed all the time. People who are right-handed don't realize that scissors are made for people that are right-handed.
Right.
And you never have to cut scissors with your left hand. You don't realize they don't cut.
Yeah.
Like they don't cut that way, and you never think about it. You never think about the notebook papers made for people with right hand. Desks, like all this stuff is made for people who are right-handed, and only left-handed people have to adjust.
Yeah.
And it'd be asinine for right-handed people to be like, well, it's just as easy. All I got to do
That's
is
a great
put myself.
analogy.
Yeah.
That is a great analogy.
Because you don't think about it. But when somebody calls you on it, you have to be like, oh, like you never realize like writing on a notebook paper with your left hand, you smudge the pencil all the way through. You never realize that because right-handed people are dragging their hand the other way. Yeah. So that's what's like to have privilege, is to realize that people make things for you and other people don't. It doesn't work. The same product doesn't work the same for them. You know, like the interaction for black men, the thing that white people don't often understand is our same interaction with police is not your interaction.
Absolutely.
You're not assumed to be doing something wrong all the time. You're not being, approached aggressively. It's different for me. You know what I mean? And I mean, you obviously get this, and I know Jay gets that, but a lot of white people say, well, I've gotten pulled over. Like, even when you're young and in college, cops bust up a frat party. It's not the same if they bust up a party in the hood. Because I went to college and I went to frat parties. Even just understanding that was once you're going to approach that situation differently because you remember what it was like. Right. And I think that's what Brock Turner is. Well, I got a cousin and a son and a nephew, but your poor black kid, that kid probably was doing some harm. You know, so.
Well, just being told your entire life that you are the norm. You don't realize like this is the programming as a child. And this was even stuff that came into focus for me. I always felt more comfortable with other ethnicities when I was young because in the 90s there was this hard push towards, women have to be quiet and they have to be like feminine and they have to be all these other things. And I was never comfortable in that thing. So I was just gravitated towards people that I felt closer to, but I was still having some ones that have been pointed out this year. Makeup that's the shade of my skin is called nude.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
That just tells you I'm normal. I'm the baseline.
All this is makeup. It wasn't until maybe a year or two that companies had to be like, we've got to start adding more shades. Yeah. Because black people were having to mix different colors and like basically be chemists at home. And white people were like, I mean, Clairol and Lancome, they've been making the same colors forever. And they were like, black people, I don't know. Do y'all even buy makeup? And then Rihanna's able to launch a makeup line with like, I think my wife said she had like maybe 10 or 20 new shades from like light to deep. And she's making so much money because nobody thought to do that. That's
great.
And now Clairol and them are like, man, we got to get Issa Rae because we're losing out on money.
Yeah.
But they never thought, I see a lot of different shade people like, nah, I'm good. Like they never think to have to do that. And people who use the products don't think about that either because you don't have to. Yeah. And that's not even like, I'm not even blaming people immediately because if you don't have to think about it, you don't. We had a girl in a wheelchair and me and Jay were talking about it. It took us like 30 minutes to get the shoot started because she couldn't get in the house. We had, she had to go around and I didn't even realize my house had a step up because I don't have to think about that because I'm not in a wheelchair.
Able privilege. We were talking about that, like the term able privilege.
Able privilege. Yeah. So.
And that's the people who are annoyed at words like trigger and people who are annoyed at words like privilege and stuff. And it's like, we are becoming so aware of the world around us. And it seems constant right now as like the pendulum is swinging the other way. But like, what an amazing time to get to understand that we are all one, we are all part of one, and have all this stuff come into focus. And it's painful, and it's more painful if you're defensive. Yeah. It's easier just to be like, everyone wants to be like, well, I'm not racist. And that's the end of the conversation. It's like, you might not be a skinhead.
Right.
But you are living in a world where you are normal, where you are the baseline.
The world's racist.
You and the and everyone else has to cater to you. And everyone else Black History Month, like that doesn't seem bananas to you that we have history that you get 12 years of. Y'all get a month.
And people are like, what if we had white history? What do you think? What do
you think you have?
History class in high school is white history.
Do you get to listen to all this made up stuff that we have presented to make ourselves look good? You get
the
to
white
listen to that
history we
every
get
day.
is always like
just twisted.
It's angled to like, oh, white people are great. Look what we did for the Native Americans. We brought it.
And the thing is, like, we talk about this a lot. This conversation has shifted
Yeah.
dramatically, but I'm okay
great.
with it. When you're a kid, you don't know to question what you're taught. Well,
Right.
the Native Americans and the Indians got along. Okay, then.
Yeah.
Why would I think anything different? Everybody in my class agrees. The teacher agrees. And then you go to college and you read and you're like, hold on, now what happened?
What? Yeah.
And Chris, like, have you really read about Christopher Columbus? Top 10 worst humans
Scumbag.
ever. And we gave him a holiday.
Gave him a holiday.
Like, he was cutting kids' hands off, like smallpox, rape, pillaging, just like the thing that helped the white people take America more than anything was smallpox. Like, Native Americans had no answer for the disease. So they're like, here's some smallpox covered blankets.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it to your kid's 5-year-old, let's turn my hand
No.
into a turkey.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
nobody's
yeah.
talking about now smallpox. If you want to talk about Thanksgiving, let's talk about smallpox. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of people never question it. They never have to. So they think you are just wrong and lying. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
anybody who questions that.
Well, then these same people are like, oh, God, here we go. Now there's a problem with Christopher Columbus. And it's like, yeah, smallpox isn't a nice thing. That wasn't a nice thing. I know you're preoccupied with wanting to build a wall so that you can keep this country we stole. But it's just so much easier because that's where all this distress is coming from. Like when you get in a fight with your significant other and you just want to be right. You want to be right so bad. And it creates all this tension and anxiety in you where if you just say, you know what? That was awful of me.
Yeah.
I am sorry. I'm sorry. How do I make it up for you? Let me give you a minute to feel your feelings and let you know that I acknowledge I'm on the wrong side of this.
Yes.
And I'm going to figure out how to be better. And like I get goosebumps every time I think about this because then we're just set free, you know?
Right,
But instead
right.
you want to be defensive that people have feelings. Of course they have feelings,
Yeah.
you know?
And it's so easy to be dismissive of something when you haven't had to experience it.
Exactly.
It's like, I don't want to believe America is like that for you because it's not like that for me. So I'm just going to say it's not like that for you.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
Like, I still get followed. We went to New York for a shoot last November, and everybody at my old job, minorities, men and women. We went into a little store in Manhattan to just grab a bottle of water. The people followed us so much. We were like, okay, sir. I mean, it's not. You're not even hiding it.
Yeah.
Like, we have money, but because you're acting like that,
Yeah.
I'm gonna put these. I mean, you know, it was like 8 of us starving. We're ready to spend probably $150. We're not stealing. There's
Right.
cameras everywhere. You
Right.
know, so. But people don't want to believe that because nobody follows you around the store. And like you were saying about being the norm, well, nobody expects you to steal. And you were literally stealing.
Yeah, I was literally stealing this idea of well, you shouldn't resist.
Yeah.
First of all, that goes against everything. Like you work for me, officer.
Oh,
This whole perception, the whole
I
thug
saw a
thing.
video of a white dude throw a cop on the ground,
yeah.
run away, look at somebody filming and laugh.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, I would die. I
Yeah.
would literally
You would
be dead
You wouldn't have
if
gotten
I
close
ever
enough.
never get. I mean, I've seen people fight the cops, take their taser, take their baton, like all these videos, and I'm just like, y'all really feel you would be flabbergasted if he were to shoot you.
Yeah.
Like, I am white.
Yeah.
That was a big realization for me because I'm someone who's extremely freedom oriented and I'm
Yeah.
someone who is just like the idea. I remember being an addict and a lot of the people going to jail were white, but
Yeah.
I remember just being like, I will die. If they put me in prison, I will just be like, what? I can't, like, because I couldn't get through school, nothing. I'm
Right,
just very
right.
not great with authority.
Right,
I'm just
right.
like, I am a human being, and you can't make me do anything I don't want to do.
Right.
I'm not good in relationships for this. So like, I always just felt like that was just a quirky thing about me, where I'm just like so evolved that I get, and only recently was I was like,
you're breaking
that's
the law
probably
every
some
day,
privilege.
Like, and I better not go to prison.
Yeah, that's
You
some privilege.
better not
in there.
arrest me. All I'm doing is stealing identities and smoking that.
Dude,
Yeah.
I remember when I was in living in Portland. So my grandfather was a cop. My uncle was head of the gang task force. All this stuff, right? And I couldn't wear because my uncle worked on the gang task force, Officer Hollingsworth. Like in high school, I couldn't wear my jersey with my last name on it. I would tell the team, like, if we were going in the hood, like on Killingsworth. I grew up on a street called Killingsworth, but
Did you really?
Yeah, 52nd and Killingsworth, Northeast Portland. But
You grew up in Portland.
Just saying,
Yeah.
Am I just
two
now
streets
connecting
like
that?
that sounds like a gang.
Yeah.
52nd and Killingsworth,
Oh yeah,
Northeast Portland.
there's gangs around there. But I remember I was dating this girl, Willita, Black? Come on, yeah. I didn't say
Never met a
Wilma,
white woman.
Willita. So, but I was taking her home. I was probably around 21, 22, and I was taking her home. It was late at night, and we're on like 15th and Killingsworth, which is like a bad area or whatever. And cop starts following us, and I know obviously there's prostitutes around and stuff, so I don't know if the cop was thinking, oh, white dude with a black girl, so it's a John, or
Right,
whatever.
right.
But this cop's following me, and I'm just getting, because I know what he's doing, and I'm getting annoyed. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'm not going to give him something to get me on.
Yeah.
So I pull over, puts the lights on, comes up, and I'm like pissed. And Willita can see it. And of course, Willita's like, calm down, calm down, right?
And you're like, don't worry, I'm white.
No, But what got me out of it, the white thing, but also like the guy's like license and registration. I was like, why'd you pull me over? Why are we talking here? And he's like, oh, you didn't signal enough distance to pull over. I pulled over because he's following me.
Right.
He's like, you signaled and pulled over too quickly. Like you had to go a little more distance. And so I'm like, that's ridiculous. So I'm giving him my ID. He goes back and he comes back and my ID has Hollingsworth on it.
Yeah.
And my uncle was a sergeant.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, are you your father a cop? And I was like, nope. Because it was my uncle.
Yeah.
And then I was like, my uncle. And then he was like, oh, have a good day. But like the whole time I'm going off on this cop, Willita's just like, calm down.
Because she's used to dealing with black dudes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, I would never forget that. I was so pissed. I wanted to murder this guy. But
I have now, and to be honest, I actually haven't mentioned this in a while, but most of the interactions I have with police are very calm, right? So I don't want to perpetuate that every cop is bad, blah, blah, blah. But the ones that I've had that are wrong, like even when you know you're in the right, you don't even want to risk.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even want to, because, okay, I'm in the right and now I'm dead. Who wins
Right.
there? You know what I mean? So
you make your point,
Where
but you're
I
dead.
can do that. Like
Yes.
I can say, what did you pull me over for? I know my rights. I can say all that. And I am at this point in my life.
Yeah.
It just didn't fly when I was a tweaker. I got beat up. But at this point in my life, I can say, I want to know why you pulled me over. I know what my rights are, whatever. I can hold a camera at them, whatever. I'm not getting pulled out and beaten. I'm not.
I would never, I even us saying, why did you pull me over? You and you, 3 different things.
Yeah.
Same.
I love watching these videos. I love like people that's like my envy. As I wish I knew all the laws, like these people where they're like they'll just roll down their window just to crack, and the cop will be like, license and registration. He's like, why'd you pull me over? And he's like, you need and then the whole, am I being detained and all that stuff. I wish I knew that stuff in and out.
And I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna. There's a video going viral about these lawyers telling you these 5 questions to say, and I was just like, dude, I'm not
wonder,
gonna
though,
risk that.
how much of that is knowing that, like being able to tell by the car or whatever, or the assumption that this person can't afford a lawyer.
Yeah,
Like I have all these fantasies about once I'm rich, like the ways I want to tear the system apart. I have one where it's just like, I'll just pay for your lawyer. You stand up to the cops and I'll pay.
Right.
If you survive,
Right.
I will. I'll pay for your lawyer.
Yeah.
Like we'll just back this.
Well, my thing is, if I'm a cop, if I'm a risk mitigator, the chances of somebody being in a poor neighborhood, the chance of them having people with money are very low. Right. So the risk of something happening bad to me as that officer are low. Now, if I go into, Beverly Hills, if you pull over a white person, the chance of them being poor are nearly none. So let me make sure I'm going by the book. I saw this movie called The Hate You Give, and he was talking about that. And he was a cop, and he was just like, and he's a black cop. He was like, I'm going to deal with the white people differently because of what may happen. Man, I have some prejudices and assumptions and things like that. But, and I get it as a police officer. Like, you've been force-fed stuff too, but you have to, I think they call sensitivity training or race-based training, or race bias training. Like, but none of that happens if everybody, like you said, is acting like this is not the case. Yeah. The first step is to be like, all right, fam, there's some bad, it's years of that's the thing. That's why I talk about the 13 so much. It talks about how black men, the slave to the prison system, how America has built that pipeline. You know what I mean? And it started with the way the laws were worded after slavery was like the first step. So
it's absolutely, and just the programming. I learned a lot about programming children when they're under the age of 7, and programming children, the way that everything's portrayed in movies, the language when something happens. We have a mass shooter, which is always white, and we got mental health issues. And then you have white people riot in the streets and throw cars around, and it's
After
like all
sporting
these
events.
wacky kids and stuff.
Yes.
But then black people stand up for their rights.
And they should protest somewhere else.
Yeah, and I honestly, this is probably paranoid, but when buildings get blown up during during the Baltimore stuff, I was like, we did that.
Right.
The white people did that. I don't.
Right.
Yeah, so that we could be like, oh, here we go again. Here's the thugs. Let's talk about the thugs.
What always cracks me up is I wanted to do a joke about it. I haven't worked it out, but on the news when they say the urban youths, that's their. It's all that coding stuff, you know.
Yeah,
good.
I have one more thing to say about race in America. And interestingly enough, our conversation on meth has led to race in America.
Yeah.
I was telling Jay about this yesterday about Sons of Anarchy. And it's a show about white dudes who are in a motorcycle gang. And me and my wife binge watched it. We hadn't heard of it, didn't come across like our marketing. So we watched it all in like 6 months. We just went crazy. And then I was driving down the 405 one day and I saw a group of motorcycle gang guys. And my first thought was like, man, they're probably going to commit a crime. And I was like, oh snap! Why would I think that? It's because I've been watching Sons of Anarchy for a couple months. Now imagine how much the media has said black men are criminals, and how many times on your local news you've seen in drug dealers, and how now you see a group of black men and you think, well, they're probably criminals in some way or shape or form, and that's years and years of you being fed these things, and we expect people to be like, oh no, I mean, I'm not affected by that. I was affected by a TV show that I knew was fictional,
right,
after watching it for like 6 months. And the media has been doing this for our whole life. Of course you're gonna have those thoughts about black people because you've been force-fed them probably your whole life.
Yeah, it's all programming.
Yeah.
It's programming from childhood on. You just have all of these things, and not like directly told to you, just like portrayed in a certain way over and over and over again. Yeah. And I think the veil is starting to be lifted, and we're like finally realizing what I've been saying since 1999, which is that it's the rich old white dudes. They're the problem. They're the criminals.
I love it.
Perfect way to end.
Yeah. It's the rich old white people that are the problem.
Kill Whitey.
But thank you so much, Jesse. Before we let
Jesse.
you go, tell people how they can find you, what you're working on, anything you want to pub.
Mormon and the Meth Head podcast. You can find that anywhere that podcasts are found. It's myself and another comedian who was raised Mormon.
Who we're going to have on for Ask a Mormon.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's a lot of stuff about like childhood trauma, addiction, programming, a lot of the kind of stuff that we talked about today. And other than that, I have a special on Epics, and This Is Not Happening on Comedy Central's YouTube.
And what's your social media?
Jessa Reed Comedy on Instagram and Twitter, and Jessa Reed on Facebook.
Yeah, if you want to, just so you got, this will get them to go watch it. The Comedy Central thing, she talks about being on meth and drinking urine.
Yeah, that'll get you to watch it.
Yeah, no, it's crazy story.
Well, I've been KevOnStage. He's been Big Irish J, and our special guest Jessa Reed. Thank her so much. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Kill Whitey.